You think power is loud, but the real kind stays wordless. You keep explaining yourself, while the strongest minds explain almost nothing. You believe presence is natural, but it is built like a hidden code. Silent power begins with one idea: you are never required to react instantly. Fast reactions are trained responses, not conscious choices. They reveal your deepest insecurity. Slow, controlled responses feel dangerous to manipulators because they cannot read your ground. Every silent signal you send tells others how far they can push you. You are taught to answer quickly, but not to guard your internal state. The first signal is calm eyes that do not chase approval or escape. When your gaze moves too quickly, it silently confesses nervous searching for safety. When your gaze holds steady and relaxed, it whispers that you fear nothing. You are not staring to intimidate, you are simply refusing to panic. This calm gaze tells the mind in front of you, adjust your tone. The second signal is measured breathing that stays slow under emotional pressure and probing. Your body wants to speed everything up when tension rises, including your breath. Manipulative pressure feeds on this, because rushed breathing narrows thought and widens emotional leaks. When you slow your breath on purpose, your thoughts stretch and gain structure. Suddenly, every word you might say passes through a gate of awareness first. The third signal is still shoulders that refuse to flinch from sharp words. Small twitches in shoulders or neck broadcast discomfort, even when your mouth stays quiet. Those tiny movements become a map for anyone searching weak spots in you. When your upper body stays relaxed, you send one message: nothing here is fragile. This does not mean you are emotionless. It means your emotions obey discipline. The fourth signal is controlled silence, placed exactly where others expect over-explaining. Most people rush into long clarifications when they feel misunderstood or lightly challenged. That rush tells a manipulative mind, keep pressing and more secrets will appear. When you answer briefly and then allow silence, you reverse the pressure. The other mind starts feeling exposed because their tactics are suddenly standing alone. The fifth signal is unhurried gestures that match your words instead of fighting them. Nervous hands betray inner storms, tapping surfaces, squeezing fingers, scratching invisible irritations. These movements shout louder than your voice. They tell observers you are unsettled. When your hands move rarely and deliberately, every gesture carries heavy psychological weight. You look like someone whose inner climate does not change with every gust. You never notice this, but it controls you. You constantly read these signals in others without realizing any conscious calculation happening. You feel comfortable near certain people without knowing exactly why that feeling appears. You feel uneasy near others, blaming their words, while your body reads signals. Your nervous system is always scanning posture, eyes, breath, gestures, timing, and pauses. Silent power is not about pretending. It is about choosing what you broadcast. You cannot stop sending signals, but you can decide which ones stay visible. The untrained mind leaks fear, neediness, and insecurity through every small, unconscious movement. The trained mind releases only what supports its values and long-term direction. This is where emotional intelligence merges with Machiavellian clarity about human perception. First, you accept that people read you faster than they hear you. Second, you understand that calm does not make you passive, it makes you selective. Third, you realize that presence is built from repetition, not from one dramatic moment. Every time you hold your ground in small interactions, the signal grows stronger. Every time you overreact or over-explain, the signal of weakness becomes louder. When someone tests you now, your focus moves inward before any visible reaction. You check the breath, you check the eyes, you check the shoulders. You ask one silent question: what signal am I about to send? This tiny pause is your private command center, unseen but absolutely decisive. From there you decide whether to speak, stay silent, or redirect the energy. Soon people stop trying small provocations because they gain nothing from pushing you. They feel something different, a mind that hears everything yet does not scramble. They start adjusting their tone, their posture, and even their hidden strategies. Without announcing anything, you have rewritten the invisible rules of interaction around you. The remaining signals go even deeper into how you handle boundaries and pressure. Are you ready to see how far your calm can really reach? You think people judge your words, but they judge your signals first. You think calm is noticed last, but it is felt instantly. You think power comes later, but it begins the moment you enter. Silent power starts shaping perception long before you speak, because the mind watching you is already scanning for certainty. Every mind wants to know who can be pushed and who cannot, and it decides this within seconds. Your task is simple. Stop sending the unconscious signals that weaken you before any conversation begins. When you remove those signals, your presence grows without effort or force. You never needed loudness, you needed internal alignment that others can sense. The sixth signal is steady pacing, the way you move or shift your weight without rushing. Most people speed up their movements under tension, trying to escape invisible discomfort. This subtle quickness becomes a broadcast of insecurity, telling observers you want the moment to end. Powerful minds do the opposite. They slow down their movements under pressure. Their pace shows they feel safe inside themselves, not forced by emotion. Steady pacing tells others you live by inner timing, not by external pulls. This one change stops people from assuming dominance over you before speaking. The seventh signal is controlled pauses inserted inside your speech, not at the start or end. Untrained minds fear silence during speaking, because silence reveals the truth beneath the words. They fill every gap with noise, thinking speed equals intelligence or confidence. But speed exposes panic, while pauses expose stability. When you speak and then pause for a breath, you create psychological gravity. Listeners lean toward you because the silence pulls their attention. Your voice becomes the anchor, not the decoration. The pause signals that you think before reacting, which terrifies manipulative minds. The eighth signal is emotional neutrality, when someone expects emotional escalation. Most conflicts are built on emotional mirroring. You get angry because they got angry. This mirroring is a trap, a programmed pattern that gives others full access to your reactions. When you refuse to mirror their emotional state, you break the entire system. Your calm tone creates confusion in the other mind because their tactic loses structure. They expected to drag you into their rhythm, but you stayed in your own. Neutrality does not mean you suppress emotions. It means you choose when they appear. This control becomes a shield that prevents others from shaping your inner climate. The ninth signal is minimal justification, the discipline to not over-explain your choices. Weak minds try to buy understanding with long explanations, hoping to avoid conflict. Long explanations create the opposite effect. They reveal uncertainty and invite resistance. When you explain only what is necessary and then stop, you communicate certainty. The person listening realizes you are not asking for permission to exist. Minimal justification signals that your values guide you, not their approval. This small habit changes how people speak to you because they sense stability. The 10th signal is emotional stillness behind the face, a quietness that cannot be shaken. Your face reveals more than your voice, especially micro-reactions to tension. Untrained minds leak doubt with raised brows, widened eyes, compressed lips, or forced smiles. Trained emotional stillness removes unnecessary signals, allowing only deliberate expression. You appear calm because your mind has room to think instead of panic. This stillness does not look robotic, it looks unbothered and deeply focused. People instinctively treat you differently because your face does not betray you. You never notice this, but it controls you. Your reactions are shaped by the micro-signals others release without thinking. Your comfort rises when someone displays stability. Your discomfort rises when they leak tension. You are constantly reading people before hearing them, and they are reading you the same way. The invisible language of silent signals decides who leads and who follows. Silent power is not magic. It is disciplined emotional intelligence disguised as calm. The quieter you become internally, the stronger your external influence becomes. The reason is simple. Every human mind trusts stability more than noise. When you show stability through your signals, people naturally calibrate around you. You become the psychological center of gravity, in the interaction without trying. Now your training deepens, because silent power is only the surface. Beneath it lies the structure that causes people to respect you without conscious effort. Respect grows from consistent internal patterns, not from performance or intimidation. It grows when your reactions match your values instead of your fears. When your behavior stays the same under pressure, people feel safe or challenged around you. Both responses increase your influence, depending on who stands in front of you. You must now understand the hidden mechanism behind all silent power signals. Every signal originates from one core principle: emotional independence. When your emotions depend on someone else's behavior, your power disappears instantly. When your emotions follow your own inner rules, you become unshakable. This independence is not coldness, it is clarity. It allows you to navigate humans without losing yourself in their storms. Manipulative minds always test emotional dependence first. They challenge your tone, your pace, your silence, your boundaries, and your certainty. They search for your emotional center, hoping it rests outside of you. If they find it, they control you. If they do not, they stop testing and start respecting. You now see why silent power works. It is built on the refusal to be emotionally hijacked. Every signal shapes how others speak, how they push, and how they react to you. You do not show dominance, you show disciplined calmness that others cannot control. This stability forces a psychological recalibration in everyone around you. You become the reference point, the one whose state influences the environment. Now the deeper question arises: when your silence becomes powerful, what hidden weaknesses does it start exposing in others? You think silence protects nothing, but it shields your entire mind. You think people only challenge your words, but they test your energy first. You think confidence is shown, but true confidence is sensed before seen. Silent power sharpens when you understand how perception forms in the first few seconds of any interaction. Every mind scans you for patterns long before it analyzes logic, tone, or meaning. Those first impressions decide how someone speaks to you, how much pressure they apply, and how quickly they attempt control. Your signals shape their behavior, even if you never notice the shift happening. This is the invisible field that powerful minds learn to control with intention. Most people live unaware of the silent system running beneath every interaction. They think tension appears suddenly, but it comes from hidden psychological triggers. Their reactions are not conscious decisions. They are automated responses produced by emotional habits. You cannot claim power if your internal system reacts before you think. You gain power when your mind becomes the architect of its own responses. To build unshakable presence, you must understand the hidden framework beneath the 10 signals. Each signal is a doorway into deeper psychological mechanics, the part most people never learn to decode. When you learn this structure, you see how people read you, how they predict you, and how they attempt to control you. You also learn how to prevent them from ever accessing your emotional center. This is where silent power becomes psychological clarity, not performance. The first hidden mechanism is emotional baselining, the internal level of calm that people sense immediately. Every mind carries a baseline, a natural state of tension or relaxation. Most people operate with raised tension because they have trained their brains to anticipate conflict. Raised tension sends unintentional signals of stress, insecurity, and emotional fragility. Others decode this baseline instantly, even if no words are exchanged. When your baseline is calm, you disrupt this decoding process completely. People cannot sense your emotional center, so they cannot target it. Your calm baseline becomes an invisible shield that blocks manipulation. The second hidden mechanism is reaction delay, the tiny gap between stimulus and response. Untrained minds collapse this gap, responding instantly from habit instead of awareness. Instant reactions reveal emotional dependence because they show your state can be triggered by someone else. Manipulative minds always test reaction speed first because it exposes the entire system. When your reactions slow down, even by 1 second, everything changes. You take control of your emotions before they escape through your voice or posture. Your mind becomes the decision maker, not your fear or anger. This delay builds authority because you choose from clarity instead of impulse. The third hidden mechanism is internal detachment, not emotional numbness but selective emotional engagement. Untrained minds attach to every opinion, tone, and facial expression directed at them. This attachment causes overreaction because they treat every signal as a threat or judgment. Detachment breaks this pattern by giving you emotional space to evaluate intention. You observe without absorbing, you feel without drowning, and you think without losing control. The other mind senses this detachment and recalibrates immediately. You appear stable because their behavior does not dictate your internal state. The fourth hidden mechanism is energy constriction, the ability to reduce unnecessary physical and emotional leakage. Most people leak energy constantly through fidgeting, rushing, over-explaining, and emotional oversharing. This leakage tells others exactly where to apply pressure. Energy constriction reverses the process by containing your signals. You become harder to read, harder to provoke, and harder to influence. Your controlled energy creates a quiet intensity that demands respect without asking. The fifth hidden mechanism is verbal minimalism, the choice to speak less but with precise intention. Most people speak to fill silence, to reduce tension, or to feel understood. This creates vulnerability because every extra word exposes patterns, fears, and insecurities. When you reduce unnecessary speech, your words gain weight. People listen more carefully because your silence makes your voice valuable. Minimalism creates psychological authority because it signals discipline. You never notice this, but it controls you. Every mind reacts to these hidden mechanisms automatically, without conscious thought. You feel drawn to people who embody calm baselines and steady responses. You feel pushed away by people who leak energy or react instantly. Your nervous system identifies power without needing explanation. This is why silent presence influences others without force or performance. Now the deeper layer begins, understanding how silent signals affect the behavior of different mind types. Not every mind responds the same way to power, but every mind reacts to stability. There are three primary mind patterns you must recognize to maintain unshakable presence. The first is the anxious mind, the type that analyzes every micro-signal for threat. When you stay calm near this mind, it adjusts downward and becomes more cooperative. Your calm becomes grounding for them because they sense no hostility or instability. Their behavior softens, their tone lowers, and their rhythm slows. Your presence becomes dominant without pressure because stability always leads anxiety. The second is the dominant mind, the type that tests boundaries through tone and intensity. This mind respects stability but fears losing control. When you remain unshakable, their testing dissolves quickly. They realize your emotional center cannot be moved, so they shift from challenge to alliance. Dominant minds attach themselves to stable figures, not reactive ones. The third is the manipulative mind, the type that searches for emotional openings to exploit. This mind cannot operate without reading your reactions. If your signals reveal fear, confusion, or neediness, they follow that path. But when your signals remain still, they lose access to their strategy. Your silence becomes a psychological wall they cannot climb. Manipulation collapses because the system cannot function without emotional influence. Silent power changes how each of these minds behaves around you. They speak differently, stand differently, and choose different words. Their subconscious shifts because your presence resets the dynamic before any conflict arises. You do not need confrontation. The system fixes itself when calmness dominates. The next layer of Part 3 goes deeper into how your internal state shapes your outer signals without conscious effort. Silent power cannot be faked for long because your body exposes what your mind hides. True unshakable presence comes from inner alignment, not outer performance. You must build the internal structure that produces the signals naturally. The first internal structure is emotional self-governance, the discipline to decide your state before others influence it. You wake with intention, not reactions. Your mind chooses its temperature for the day. When you govern your emotional state internally, external events lose their grip. Your energy becomes consistent, and consistent energy feels powerful to others. The second internal structure is selective focus, the ability to direct attention toward what matters. Most people waste attention on minor irritations and emotional noise. Your focus becomes sharp because you stop feeding distractions. Your mind becomes quieter, which makes your presence feel stronger. People sense this clarity and adjust around it. The third internal structure is internal validation, the refusal to measure yourself through external approval. When you stop needing affirmation, your interactions become cleaner. You do not chase acceptance, so people sense your independence. Internal validation makes you immune to emotional manipulation. The fourth internal structure is boundary clarity, the invisible internal map of what you will and will not allow. Boundaries are not words, they are patterns of response. When your boundaries are clear inside you, others feel them without any explanation. They adjust their tone because your signal says enough. You never notice this, but it controls you. Your internal state shapes your external signals, and your external signals shape the behavior of people around you. Change your internal state, and you change the entire social field. This is why silent power is emotional intelligence in its sharpest form. Soon you will learn the deeper system that turns calm into influence. Are you ready to see how your stillness affects the hidden motives of others? You think people hear your words, but they feel your energy first. You think strength is displayed, but real strength is sensed without effort. You think presence is random, but it is built through invisible choices. Silent power reaches its strongest form when your inner state becomes impossible to disturb. This is not suppression. It is mastery, the ability to choose your emotional position even when pressure rises. Most minds collapse under small triggers because they never train their internal system. They react before thinking, they flinch before understanding, and they surrender control before noticing. Your goal is different. You aim to build a mind that cannot be redirected by external noise. Now the deeper structure reveals itself, the foundation behind all unshakable presence. The 10 silent signals are surface expressions, but beneath them lies a psychological engine. This engine decides how you respond, how you breathe, how you stand, how you think. If you rebuild the engine, the signals appear naturally without effort or performance. You do not act powerful, you become powerful. The first core principle is emotional detachment, the separation between stimulus and identity. Most people confuse reactions with self, thinking every trigger demands their full emotional involvement. This attachment makes them predictable, manipulable, and easy to destabilize. When you detach identity from reaction, you break this pattern. You experience emotion without surrendering control, you feel without obeying. The other mind senses this independence and recalibrates instantly. You cannot be pulled into their emotional rhythm because you no longer mirror them. The second core principle is internal pacing, the control of your psychological speed. Untrained minds speed up under pressure, losing clarity and revealing fear. Trained minds slow down under pressure, gaining clarity and revealing authority. This pacing shapes the environment because the slowest mind sets the rhythm for everyone. When you control pace, you control dynamic. You appear unshakable because you refuse to match chaotic energy. The third core principle is mental neutrality, the state where you observe without labeling. People destroy their clarity by judging everything too quickly. Judgment creates emotional bias, and bias distorts perception. Neutrality keeps your mind clean, allowing you to understand intention without emotional interruption. Manipulative minds cannot function against neutrality because they rely on emotional reactions. When you stay neutral, their influence collapses. The fourth core principle is internal authority, the sense that your mind answers to itself alone. When authority comes from others, you bend to external expectations. When authority comes from within, you move based on values, not pressure. This internal authority leaks through your posture, your silence, and your reactions. People sense it even if you say nothing. The fifth core principle is psychological minimalism, removing unnecessary emotional and verbal noise. Every extra movement reveals instability. Every extra word reveals internal chaos. Every extra reaction reveals emotional dependence. Minimalism removes these leaks and replaces them with focused intention. Your presence becomes heavy, controlled, and calm. Others feel this and adjust their behavior without being asked. You never notice this, but it controls you. Your nervous system constantly scans for these core principles in others. You trust people with internal authority, even when they speak quietly. You distrust people with emotional leakage, even when they speak confidently. These invisible judgments guide your comfort, your boundaries, and your instincts. Now you understand why presence shifts rooms without a single word. But to complete your transformation, you must understand how silent power functions when tested directly. People test stability in 3 predictable ways, and each test reveals your level of emotional training. The first test is tension pressure, subtle changes in tone designed to provoke immediate reaction. They want to see if your mood can be shifted easily. If you react quickly, they read you as fragile. If you remain still inside, their strategy ends. Your calm becomes a mirror that exposes their attempt. The second test is boundary friction, small violations disguised as harmless interactions. They observe whether you over-explain, overreact, or justify yourself unnecessarily. If you bend, they learn to push again. If you hold, they respect silently. The boundary is not the words you say, it is the signal your energy sends. The third test is emotional misdirection, attempts to confuse you through unexpected comments or emotional shifts. They want to catch your micro-reactions, to see what emotion you cannot hide. If your inner state remains steady, they lose the map they hope to read. Your stillness shuts down the path into your psychology. When you pass these 3 tests consistently, people begin treating you differently. They speak more carefully, they choose softer tones, they show more respect. They sense a mind that does not break under pressure, and they adjust instinctively. You become the psychological anchor without demanding it. This is the true reward of silent power, influence without force. Now the final layer unfolds, the integration of all signals into one unshakable identity. Silent power is not built through one moment of strength, it is built through repetition. Every calm reaction strengthens neural pathways that support clarity. Every slow breath rewires your baseline. Every steady gaze resets how people read you. Every controlled silence builds internal authority. These repetitions become your psychological signature. At this stage, you no longer perform strength, you embody it. Your posture aligns naturally, your breath stays deep, your tone stays level. Your reactions come from intention, not insecurity. Your eyes hold calm focus, your shoulders remain still, your mind stays quiet. Your silence becomes louder than noise, your presence becomes heavier than words. This is the point where people feel your power before you speak. You never notice this, but it controls you. Every human mind gravitates towards stability, even dominant or manipulative minds. Stability is rare, so when someone finds it, they adjust around it. Your calm becomes the center of the interaction, influencing others without visible effort. This is how silent power creates respect without force and influence without demand. The transformation completes when your inner world no longer bends under external storms. You stop fighting for control because you already have it. You stop chasing dominance because calm already guides your direction. You stop trying to prove yourself because presence proves everything. Silent power is not about being emotionless, it is about being unmoved by chaos. It is understanding yourself so deeply that no one can redirect your inner state. When your mind becomes still, your influence becomes sharp. When your emotions become disciplined, your presence becomes unforgettable. You think people see your face, but they see your energy. You think people hear your words, but they hear your stability. You think people judge your choices, but they judge your internal world. And once your internal world becomes unshakable, no external force can control you. Now the final question forms, the one that decides what you become next. When your mind becomes untouchable, what happens to those who still try to test your silence?